This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Badgers will look to get back on track tonight as they face off against Minnesota at the Kohl Center. Wisconsin saw its 5-game winning streak snapped on Sunday after blowing a 12-point lead in the final 12 minutes and losing to USC. The biggest issue was their shooting. They went just 9 for 37 from beyond the arc, dropping to 1 and 5 when making fewer than 10 3-pointers, while they're 13 and 1 when hitting 10 or more. In the second matchup against the Gophers in the last few weeks, with Wisconsin beating Minnesota on the buzzer beater the first time in the Twin Cities. Gophers have lost 5 straight, coming in 50 for 8. Here are the Bucks. They are reportedly listening to offers for two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. That, according to ESPN, they're reporting that Giannis is ready for a new home, either by the February 5th trade deadline or in the offseason. Multiple teams have made aggressive offers for Giannis. He's currently injured. There's no timetable made for his return. Milwaukee's struggling right now, sitting 12th in the Eastern Conference. They're going to be in Washington tomorrow.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us, at home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
The Packers are adding to their defensive staff. Former Bills defensive coordinator Bobby Babich is being hired to be the team's defensive passing game coordinator. He'll replace Ryan Downer, who joined former Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley down in Miami. And Wisconsin's 2026 schedule has been finalized. It includes opening the season against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field, a Big Ten opener at Penn State, going to Iowa on Halloween, and closing the year against Minnesota at home. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Prid.
Hey, now what's changed is Giannis is now ready and prepared for a trade from the Milwaukee Bucks, either at next Thursday's NBA trade deadline or in the offseason. My understanding is, to put it plainly, Giannis has made it clear and communicated to the organization that he believes it's time to part ways after 13 years together and the first championship in 50 years in 2021. And what's changed for the Milwaukee Bucks is they have had a surge of aggressive trade offers made on Giannis, and they are now listening to them. These are offers of all-star caliber players, multiple draft picks, but this has been brewing for the last 9 months. Giannis and his agent Alex Saratzas have been very upfront with the Bucks organization about his desire to compete for a second NBA championship. And where this Bucks organization is now is they're dealing with being 9 games under 500. They're the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're now being surpassed by the Charlotte Hornets at 11, and they're more jockeying for lottery positioning than even Giannis's return from the calf injury. So there's been a lot of uncertainty within that Bucks locker room, Hannah. We're now 8 days from the NBA trade deadline. We'll see if a deal happens.
MRI has revealed exactly what we thought. There's no timetable, no cap strain, really no timetable for return. Hopefully I get wet before or sooner, but there's no timetable.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's Shams Charania. You'd think after all these years he'd get slightly smoother and better at talking on TV, but I guess not. So that's where we will begin tonight. A little Giannis news. Nothing crazy, because I feel like we've heard this stuff before. It's always presented a little differently. It's always worded a little differently, but this is significant. So that's where we're going to begin the show. Still going to talk a lot of football tonight, including, and you heard in Zach's update there, Bobby Babich was hired by the Packers. He's going to come in and be, was it their passing game coordinator, the running game coordinator, right? Something slightly larger than a position coach, but something lesser than the full-throated defensive coordinator, a guy with defensive coordinator experience. So they have a passing game coordinator who's got defensive coordinator experience and a defensive coordinator who's got head coaching experience. I don't know much about any of these guys other than what I've read, but I like the thought process. Let's take guys who are overqualified for the roles that we're going to stick them in. I like that. That seems to make sense. You're acquiring and stacking up experience. That seems good to me. So we'll get into that tonight, and Jesse Temple will join us in hour number 2 as well, react to the Badgers schedule. I'll pick his brain a little bit. He sat down with quarterback coach Kenny Guyton this week to talk about Colton Joseph, the new quarterback from Old Dominion. Yeah, but also we got a bunch of new quarterbacks in that room. And if we've learned anything about college football in the Luke Fickell era, it's that I would imagine somebody else is going to play at some point. So we'll talk with Jesse about that conversation and pick over the schedule, maybe a Badgers basketball thought or two. That's coming up an hour or two. Justin Garcia, Bucks Radio Network, in about a half hour. And I'll take your calls throughout the show as well. Appreciate you listening and participating in the show every night. The calls are my favorite part. So the honest news, this first came through today with a tweet from Shams Charania, and I'll read you the exact tweet because I think it's important. Kind of sets the base for the conversation that we're going to have. He tweeted, 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is ready for a new home at the February 5th NBA trade deadline or in the offseason, as several rival teams make aggressive offers to the Milwaukee Bucks for him, and the franchise is starting to listen, league sources tell ESPN. I do think it's interesting that in no tweets or no reports or scoops that we've ever gotten from Shams or others has it ever been worded as a trade request. That, to me, doesn't change the fact that he's probably on the way out. I'm not telling you that it's fake because, well, but he didn't request a trade. Like, no. I think the wheels are definitely in motion. I think if Giannis and his camp had requested a trade and wanted it out there that they had requested a trade, it would be out there. So again, that language is not signaling to me that Giannis is happy in Milwaukee and is going to be here for another 3, 4, 5 years. That language signals to me that it's important for Giannis and his camp to not be the bad guy. Well, no, we're not requesting a trade. We're not demanding a trade. We're ready for a new home. It's just a little funny to me. And I think it does matter, right? These insiders are sharing the information provided to them by agents or people on teams. And they don't get that information if they take liberties with how they word that information. You know what I mean? So I always, again, the first thing I thought when I saw this was I laughed a little bit because I think it's so important for Giannis to not be the bad guy. Like the Michael Scott quote, I'm so used to being the bad boy. Giannis doesn't want to be that guy, but he also sees the writing on the wall. Milwaukee isn't good. He's ready to leave. But again, he has not requested a trade. He's not demanded a trade, as you sometimes see in these reports and in these scoops. He has just made it clear that he's ready for a new home, which basically, let's be real, it basically means the same thing, but those little linguistic differences, they tell us a little something, just a little clue on how to feel about this. I'm going to read for you a little bit from the Shams piece at ESPN. So here, give me my reading music. Thank you. 2-time MVP is ready for a new home, blah, blah, blah. We read that already. Multiple teams have received a sense that the Bucks are more open than ever to Antetokounmpo offers between now and the deadline, league sources said. However, Milwaukee has indicated to interested teams that the organization is not in a rush to complete a move and is willing to navigate Antetokounmpo's future in the offseason if the believed price point of blue chip young talent and or a surplus of draft picks isn't met, sources said. By waiting to the summer, the Bucks could also see which teams are able to offer more appealing draft picks in June. That's true. We'd get clarity on who's picking where. Sources tell Antetokounmpo that he has informed the Bucks for months that he believes the moment has come to part ways. See, again, it's the moment has come to part ways. Or I'm ready for a new home. This language just kills me. After 12 plus years together, making a trade increasingly possible. The Bucks, 18-27 and 12th in the Eastern Conference, face significant questions about their future direction, which has led to open and honest conversations between the two sides. Milwaukee is currently slated to have a lottery pick possessing the least favorable of its own and the New Orleans Pelicans selection. And then he goes on, blah, 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 about how Giannis will be eligible for a Supermax. Here's what's funny to me, is that all of these reports and all these scoops that we've got about Giannis potentially being accepting of a new home, like we're rehoming a pet. He wants out, but he doesn't want to be the guy that asks out. That's what's going on here, okay? What I find so funny and what's lost in it all, and this is so NBA, is very few people, well, I shouldn't say very few, but we sometimes lose the whole point of what's going on with the Bucks right now, and that is they suck. So when we're reading these stories, and Bill was talking about this on his show earlier today too, it's like, well, Giannis has reached a point, or, you know, things have changed a little behind the scenes, or, you know, his perspective has changed. No. The team sucks. That is the thing here. But because the NBA is about superstar movement and drama and trades and Like, very few people actually point out the fact that, hey, the Bucks are terrible. They are 9 or 10 games below 500. They're not in the play-in. If the play-in started today, they would be 2 spots out of the play-in. They're closer to being the first pick in the draft than they are to being in the playoff or the play-in. Take your pick. They're not on either. So, yeah, no kidding, Giannis might be looking for a new home. This team is terrible. And they have a coach who I still don't, I don't get the Doc thing. I understand why they hired Doc, because they had to fire Griffin in the middle of the year and options were limited and you couldn't just roll with Joe Prunty the rest of the year. Although I feel like their chances to win a playoff series with Joe Prunty would be not much worse than they would have been with Doc Rivers, but whatever. This team, as I've said for weeks now, they're just wasting everybody's time. They're wasting Giannis's time. They're wasting Doc's time. They're wasting Miles Turner's time. Most importantly, they're wasting our time and our money. Why am I paying for FanDuel Sports or whatever it is? Is it still, it's FanDuel Sports? I actually don't know. And I watched some of the Sixers game last night. Well, that was on NBC, so that was a little different, I guess. But people are buying tickets to go watch this team in person. They're spending money, real money, not like, hey, I won tickets through the radio station type thing. No, I went on my phone on a ticketing app and deposited money and traded that money for the right to go to the building and watch this team. Watch this team. Watching Jericho Sims run around last night. It's like, oh, just horrifying. They're wasting everybody's time. I can't imagine something would happen before the trade deadline. Although, just as a neutral NBA fan, wouldn't it be fun to have a big-time NBA trade deadline? It's been a while since we've had a proper trade deadline. Maybe the trade deadline died with LeBron. It's like no teams are going to do deals at the deadline because, well, LeBron's not holding a gun to the back of our proverbial head, so we don't have to. We'll just wait for the summer, which is good business, but not really entertaining. Like, that doesn't give me any juice. That doesn't give me anything in February. So that's the latest on Giannis. I'll give you one more soundbite from Shams Charania here. This is him on First Take. And again, I think there's some little tidbits in here that kind of help contextualize and help put everything in a proper framing. This is Shams on First Take today, about 90 seconds. And enjoy. He's such a good, dynamic, clear speaker.
He has made it clear to them in private conversations.
Get him a microphone,
ESPN.
ESPN.
Loves Milwaukee, loves the organization, loves the franchise. He is ready to move to a new team potentially at the deadline or in the offseason. And the Bucks as well have had to reevaluate where they're at, what their direction is moving forward. And so I'm told there's already been several aggressive offers made to the Bucks. You have offers with former All-Star players, with multiple draft picks. That's all stuff that the Bucks are sifting through this week and next week. But over the next now we're 8 days away from the trade deadline. The Bucks have started listening to offers, engaging to an extent. They made it clear to teams what their threshold is as far as blue chip young talent and draft compensation. But this is 9 months in the making, several years in the making for Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee.
Several years in the making. I mean, the dump I took this afternoon is several years in the making. I laughed because people were sharing a Bleacher Report post from 2017 today that the clock has started on a potential exit from Milwaukee per Woj. This is July 6th, 2017. So, well, yes, things have been trending downward for the Bucks. Shams saying that this has been years in the making. Well, you could say that about anything. The dump I took this afternoon has been years in the making, I suppose.
This is 9 months in the making, several years in the making for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Several years in the making. And one more thing on Shams Charania and Brian Windhorst and all these insiders. And I know Bucks fans, we talked about this a couple of months ago. And I believe we had Justin on that night where we talked about it, where it's like, look, Giannis is certainly wavering on his future in Milwaukee, and there's real drama there, or there's a real question mark about whether or not he's going to continue to be a Buck. I'm not disputing that. That exists. But also, I understand why Bucks fans are so sick and tired of Shams and Windhorst and Ramona Shelmer and all these people, because you can't say, again, going all the way back to 2017 was the story that people dug up at Bleacher Report, but it was a report from Woj, who was at ESPN. He was the big banana at the time. Like, you can't do this every 6 months, every 3 months for almost a decade and have us be sitting on the edge of our seat. And that's my other take on all this. Like, I think Giannis and a Giannis trade, I think the window was missed. I don't think we care. I don't think many people care about this anymore. I do Bart Winkler's podcast every week with Paul Imig. It's a good time. And one of, I think, Bart's best takes is that aliens missed their window. Like, we've had shared evidence of flying saucers and things put out by our government, and our world is so crowded and noisy now. Like, we don't care. It doesn't make an impact. Aliens missed their window. We're inundated with too much. They missed their window. A flying saucer could land in Fort Lauderdale tonight, and we'd all be like, oh, Florida man sees it, and then we'd move on to the next thing, because that's the world we live in. I think years and years and years and years of Giannis speculation and trade and Giannis fake trades on every Bill Simmons podcast going all the way back to 2022 or before, like, I just think people are fatigued by it. So if eventually we get a tweet from Shams or whoever that says Giannis has requested a trade, which I don't think we'll ever get. I think we'll continue to get the he's ready to accept a new home, type of thing. But if we ever get a Giannis tweet that's like, Giannis has requested a trade, I think we'll all go, okay, they'll probably get some picks or some players, and we'll move on. And we won't rush to our podcast feeds to see what Zach Lowe or Bill Simmons has to say. Well, what kind of fake trades? Can you let me get on the trade machine? It's like, no, we've been hearing about this and we've been inundated with this content for so long. Like, this whole thing missed its window. I don't think we care anymore. Kendrick Perkins on ESPN the other morning said, I'm tired of talking about Giannis. Brother, I would be too. I'm amazed it took you this long. I think people they're just beaten down by this. It's not that they don't care. It's just that if you would have told me 5 years ago, hey, Grant, one day Giannis is going to request a trade, I'd say, wow, that'll be a big day. I'll probably lead my show with it. And I'll probably give some long, impassioned opening segment about what he means to Milwaukee and the Bucks organization. They got to get this right. This is such a big moment in time. And no, the Warriors trade with the picks and Kuminga, that's not enough. You need to go for the Hawks trade. And that window was missed. Because Giannis could request a trade tomorrow, and I think a lot of people are going to be like, okay, so, sure, yeah, But, like, is Adam Stenavich, like, is he going to really be the Packers offensive coordinator next year? I think the Giannis trade has missed its window. I think we've just been inundated with too much for too long. And I think that was made evident today, where I'm seeing tweets about Giannis's time ending in Milwaukee, and more Wisconsin people that I follow are tweeting about Bobby Babich, who's like, the defensing passing game coordinator? Sign of the times. Very busy media landscape in which we live, but also I think we've just been bashed over the head for this for too long. If you have any thoughts on this, I'll take your calls next. 608-321-1670. You can text that number as well. Justin Garcia, a good friend of the show, will join us to help make sense of a little bit of this at the bottom of the hour as well. So I'll get to you first in the meantime after this very short break from our sponsors.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Network.
4 years. That's enough time to earn a college degree. To serve a full term as a president, to train for something big, and become someone new.
You bet, and get 0% interest for 4 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, so you can invest in your home and in life's biggest moments. With exclusive features and customizations, Pella offers the highest quality products at a price you can afford.
Aim high when setting your New Year's resolution, and imagine what you can do in 4 years when you finance your home project with Pella. Visit PellaWI.com today.
This Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. Go Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. This Go Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Bucks are being patient, Hannah, but my sources say that they are giving indications that they want either a young blue chip talent and or a surplus of draft picks, and probably a combination of both things as they sift through these offers this week and next week's. They're not in any rush because they could handle this in the offseason. But in the offseason, that's where Giannis will have even more level of control, because next year will essentially be the expiring final year of his contract, because he has a player option in 2027. And so the closer you get to the end of your contract, the more leverage a player like Giannis will have in determining where he ends up, because any team that trades for Giannis needs to know whether he wants to be there long-term, given how much they're going to have to give up.
A little bit more from Shams Charania. I understand that the NBA and the Bucks are not the A1 story for many of you. I just need a little bit of a Packers palate cleanser. I was putting together the rundown for the show, and I can't do another 4 o'clock segment on, and now they hired Bobby Babich. Here's what we know about him. And now they've hired, we did this just yesterday. I already forgot. Well, Jonathan Gannon, yeah. But now they're bringing in this guy to replace the other guy who I didn't even know about until 2 days ago when he left. And I was told that that's a huge loss. And why is Adam Stenavich still here? And again, why is Adam Stenavich still here? I can't do it. Just need a little bit of a break. So actually, thank God we got this story from Shams today. And again, Giannis hasn't requested a trade. the wording of these reports. Again, Giannis Antetokounmpo is ready for a new home ahead of the February 5th trade deadline, as several teams have made aggressive offers. That wording is not an accident. That wording is intentional. That information is either coming from the team or it's coming from the player. If it came from the team, which I doubt it did, because why would the Bucks want this out there? The Bucks probably came out and said, well, look, we're taking our time. We're being patient. He didn't request a trade. We don't have a gun to the back of our head. We're not desperate. So it's going to take a good offer. So I suppose it could have come from the team. That framing is not unhelpful to the team. I don't know that it's super helpful, but it's not unhelpful. I think more likely it's coming from Giannis's camp saying, well, you know, the Bucks aren't good and we want to go somewhere, but we want to make it sound not like we're jerks about it. And Shams is probably like, well, what if Shams has probably got his notepad. Okay, so what about this? Giannis, the two-time MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, is looking to move on from the Bucks. No. Scratch that. No. Moving on makes it sound like we're leaving them behind. Oh, yeah, good point. Okay. What about the two-time MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, is looking for a new team? No. Don't remind anyone that he was on an old team. We don't want that. Okay, scratch the team. What about a new home? Oh, a home. Very human. Who lives in a home? Families have homes. Kids. Everyone loves kids. No one can hate. Giannis is a father. Giannis has kids. No one can hate on him for that. Yeah, let's go with new home. Yeah, that's good. It's wording. It matters. It's intentional. In none of these reports about Giannis, and they've come out in dribs and drabs over the last couple months, in none of these reports have there ever been a demand or a request. No demands, no requests. A new home, ready for this or that, open to this or that, very progressive, very loving, it's not that I don't love you, it's that I also want to love someone else. You know, that whole thing. Folks, no other shows in Wisconsin are breaking down these statements and tweets quite to the letter like this one is, by the way. You're welcome. Don on the live stream says, Shams needs to find a new home. Look, I am sympathetic to Bucks fans, and I am one. And I'm sympathetic to Bucks fans because they've had to take this in the ear for the better part of a decade. And in the opening segment, I mentioned that a lot of people were sharing and kicking around a Bleacher Report article from 2017 that cites a quote from Woj about how the clock has started on a Giannis exit. And that was 2017. That was 9 years ago. It was almost a decade. So I get it, Bucks fans, when Shams comes out and says Giannis might be looking for a new home, and Bucks fans come out and they say, we've been hearing about this since 2016. Like Kanye was popular when we started hearing about this. Like Obama was just getting out of office. That's how long we've been hearing this. So when we see another Giannis headline and another Giannis headline, I think Bucks fans' first reaction is, dude, how many times are you going to do this? Like, aren't you tired of doing this? And I get that completely and totally 100%. I also fully believe this thing is happening. And I believe Giannis wants to get to the Knicks, but the Knicks aren't going to be able to put up the capital, and they don't really have the tradable assets and the contracts to functionally and seamlessly make it work. And the Bucks will play ball, but they don't want to like play ball to the point where they're giving away their best player and their best asset. Bucks fans, if you are somebody who's maybe a little bit more detached, a little bit less of a fanboy, like for me, I've said all along, you ride Giannis until the wheels fall off. There's no point in trying to do extra preparation for life after Giannis, because life after Giannis is always going to suck. Like it's always going to be tough. There's not some competitive panacea where it's like, well, we'll trade Giannis and then we'll immediately have this person and we'll go right back to competing for conference titles and NBA finals. It's not happening. So ride Giannis until the wheels fall off, because you're taking your medicine either way. So that's always been my stance. But if you're someone who's like, no, you have to trade him now. You have to trade him now. Well, this latest calf injury is probably a blessing in disguise for folks like you, because now it shelves Giannis. There's no risk that he gets injured. The Bucks will probably tank the rest of the year. I mean, they're tanking right now. It won't take any adjustment. It will take no decisions. It will take they don't have to do anything. Just let Doc continue to go out there and do his thing. Play Jericho Sims and do what you've been doing, Doc. It's working. So they're going to do that. And then this offseason, they can trade Giannis. They can trade Miles Turner and get some assets back for that. They don't control their own pick, but they do have a pick. This year, they'll get the lesser of either their pick or the Pelicans pick. And you can start a bona fide rebuild. You're not completely and totally pantsed. You're not going to be in the playoffs contending for a finals in 2 years, but you're not completely and totally pantsed. The timeline of this thing now kind of makes sense. And this injury probably simplifies matters and makes matters easier. Does that make sense? So that's really every angle. Bobby Menominee says, I will call. I'm not going to read that. But again, more comments of anti-Shams. I get it. I do. Because it's one thing after another every couple of months. I get it. And like today, that soundbite that I played, I believe it was Shams on First Take at the end, said this has been years in the making.
This is 9 months in the making, several years in the making for Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee.
Is it years in the making? I think the team just finally ran out of gas and they're not good anymore. I don't think it's like, well, this started back in 2019 when, no, I think he was going to stay here as long as he felt they were competitive. They're not competitive anymore. So sure, if that's years in the making, that's fine. But as I said in the first segment, okay, then the dump I took earlier this afternoon was years in the making, because technically every step that I've taken in my life has contributed one way or another to taking that dump.
This is 9 months in the making, several years in the making. For
9 months in the making, years in the making. Yeah, we know. We get the breakout clips stuffed down our throat every couple of months. Well, Giannis. And again, it's never requesting. It's never demanding. He's open to a new home. He's ready for a new home. Okay. Let's get that calf healthy first, buddy. Doc Rivers, tank commander, lose some games down the stretch, and then we'll figure things out in the offseason. I don't think he'll be moved before the deadline, although the NBA fan in me would enjoy it because I would love a proper NBA trade deadline. It's been a while since we've had one of those. Justin Garcia. Join us, a good friend of show. Couple of minutes, we'll hit this on the other side. And then don't worry, Packers fans, don't worry, please. At 5 o'clock, we will attack every angle of this Bobby Babich hiring. Don't worry, it's coming. We'll get there.
This is the Wisco Sports Show.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
there is a sport you play and things happen. And it's concerning because this is, really 3 or 4 years in a row, right? I don't even know that. So, he plays a lot of basketball. He really does. Summers, then body doesn't get a lot of breaks. And, that's tough.
So that's Doc Rivers. The reason I play that cut, I laugh at it because if the Bucks are trading Giannis at some point, can we not point out how much basketball he's played? Like, Doc, stuff it. He's in great shape. Legs, I mean, I've never seen someone in this type of physical condition at this age. That's what I want to hear. You don't go to a car lot. You ever go to a car lot, hear a salesman go, hey, this is a nice car. And the price, I mean, we're gonna need an arm and a leg for it, but God, this thing's been rode hard and put away wet. It's like, what? No, shut up, Doc. So I just find that cut funny. Now, not saying we're trading Giannis anytime soon, but it does seem to be trending that way. So we call on our Bucks expert, Justin Garcia, the Bucks Radio Network and Locked On Bucks. Were you surprised when you saw the tweet from Shams and all the hubbub earlier today, Justin? Did you gasp, or is this something you're like, yeah, I kind of figured maybe we'd hear something like this week?
Surprised? No. I mean, how many of us can actually be surprised at this point where there's just been smoke billowing out of the headquarters there for years? And, I get there's a lot of fatigue from Bucks fans, and it's the vitriol's directed towards one person specifically. I mean, I just think, and it's been my stance all along, that if this were any other player or any other team, our opinion would be different, right? We would have a much different.
You would respond differently to the Shams tweets. Is that what you're saying specifically?
Yeah, and I mean, granted, we didn't follow daily what happened and annually what happened with Damian Lillard. You could just see like, I wonder how that's going to go. Like, I don't know how frequently the same type of deal was happening, but where we currently are at and the reporting, quote unquote, that has come out the past few months and over the summer, like any of this stuff, if it's happening to any other player, I think Bucks fans are looking at it and saying, well, it's only a matter of time before that guy's gone.
So our friend Bart Winkler has a take that I love. He says often that aliens missed their window. Like, we are no longer
about it earlier today.
I'm sure he's used this is material that he goes to quite a bit. I don't know if it's in his special. He'll eventually tape one. I'm sure that'll be somewhere in there. I feel like a Giannis trade has kind of missed its window because I've been on the air. I've been doing the show since 2018. And this has always kind of been in the back of my mind. There's been a couple shows like Bobby Euchre's probably going to pass away. That's a show that I'm going to have to do. Right. And then that's more morbid, I know, but that's the other thing that came to mind. And then I always thought, well, Giannis could request a trade. That's a show that I'm going to have to do. And I'll probably need to come on the air and say, long rant about what he means to the city and this and that. And then I'll speak to the Bucks and I'll be like, you can't mess this up. And this is so important. And we saw this tweet today and everyone's like, okay, sure. Now, why is Adam Stenovich still on the Packers? Like, it seems like we've missed our window a little bit on this.
Yeah, I mean, Bucks fans had different questions. Like, okay, sure, why is somebody else employed in a job that they currently have? Is the one thing that I hear. Maybe we can get to that
next. Yes,
the
that's probably what we're
most
talking about too.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate if it does end up coming to this because, like, I was talking about it with someone else. Like, first of all, we have to get there to Giannis being moved before we can jump to conclusions. But we're obviously experienced in going through these breakups with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, but this one is different because, when you're born in Wisconsin, it is, I believe, on your birth certificate that you're born a Packers fan, and it's your birthright that, like, this is a part of my family now. And the success that the Packers had, obviously, in the 60s, I mean, everybody who is a generation older than me will tell you, yeah, but you weren't around for the 80s and those teams. Like, sure.
Were they not good in the 80s?
But it was a little different because it's the Packers. Football is king, the place that they hold in everyone's hearts in this state. You were like, man, this is a bummer, but football is different. The Packers are different and the allure and the mystique of them. So on to the next. And plus you had Aaron Rodgers, you had Jordan Love that you had, okay, it's waiting in the wings. You don't have that with the Bucks. And the Bucks have always been different because at best they're third in the state. Like, it's something we're all aware of, that the Brewers can sell the weather. The Packers are the kings of the state. When the Bucks are really, really good, they're very relevant. When they're not, it's not as much of a basketball state or town, right? So there's that part that goes into it as well. And there's people who had given up on the Bucks and weren't really dyed in the wool Bucks fans that started to become that because of Giannis. So if we get to that point, you're going through that on multiple fronts of like, man, we got to go through this again, but it feels different because of this guy, because this guy was different, because this guy reignited my interest in basketball and in the Bucks, and he played as large a role as anyone in redeveloping that area and getting this arena built and keeping the Bucks in Milwaukee and not relocating. Like I think that's all what kind of adds to what everybody's going through when it's, we got to go through this again, and knowing like we're going to have to eventually come to terms with this part of it as well.
I've only heard Bill Simmons do so many fake Giannis trades to the point where now it's like, well, yeah, we can do them, but we've been doing them for so long. So, you know, like that was a thought I had. We played a little word salad with the reporting of Shams. Notice it's never a request. It's never a demand. It's he's ready for a new home. You know, I saw Chris Haynes today on multiple outlets basically say, I don't think Giannis is ever going to request a trade. So talk about the mechanics of that. Are we just going to hear that Giannis is open and they're hearing, and then one day we're going to wake up and he's gone? Is that how that's going to go, do you think?
Potentially. You know, I mean, it depends on, do you want to put on the black hat either side? Like, do the Bucks just want to say, okay, it's in the best interest of the organization that we have to look at the future? Mm-hmm. Do you want to specifically ask for a trade? Like, I think they're reading the room here. That's a big part of the holdup. And the caveats to all of this is the wording in the word salad that you mentioned from Shams. Like, if that is in fact how it took place, it's a soft request, right? At worst. Yeah. Over the summer, the fall, actually, October 1st is when he becomes extension eligible. If you don't sign an extension, you may not verbally be asking for a trade, but if you say, no, I'm not signing that, that's a soft trade request to say, I'm going into the final year of my contract and then I'm a free agent.
Okay. Justin Garcia is here. Bucks Radio Network, Locked On Bucks podcast. I ask this directly for effect, but with a soft touch. I'm not trying to be a prick here. Why is Doc Rivers coaching the Bucks at this time?
Boy, you're really trying to nail me down here.
They're not good. They're not, like, it would make sense to have a younger, like, if we're going to do a rebuild here or we're working through some things, why would Doc be the correct coach for this team? Maybe that's a better way to ask it.
Okay. See how I can delicately dance around this one without agitating any of my employers. We don't know that they're doing a rebuild. I mean, that's the thing, you know, sure. And even going back to the summer, because you've seen a lot of it too, of like, well, why don't they just pull the Band-Aid off and go through a gap year, which here we are, right? We may have taken a different route, but that's the same destination we arrived to. You couldn't go into this season with that approach because of the pick swap. And because you can say, well, there's no way they were ever going to be good. The Pelicans were trying to compete. And the win totals, the projections, they were somewhere slated to finish somewhere around like 10th worst in the league.
Did Bill Simmons go over or under? I can't remember their over-under pod.
No, that's a good question. I don't remember which side they came down on. I think they took the over. But anyway,
keep going.
Yeah, they were like projected to be with a non-lottery somewhere around the 10th pick. So you can't look at that and say, time to tank. We'll just keep Dame around, and we know he's not going to play. We're going to trade off other pieces, and we're just going to tank, knowing full well, okay, it's a pick swap. So maybe we can hedge our bets here and say we don't think New Orleans is going to be as good as they hope to be, but you better hope that's the case if you're going to be in that lower portion, because you're potentially giving away the number 1 pick and getting like the number 14 pick. So they kind of had to approach the season the way that they have. You can say, well, come on, I knew from the start New Orleans wasn't going to be good, so you should have done this. Maybe, fine. But regardless, this is where we are. So you make it to have your cake and eat it too in that sense.
So before the year, it's like, well, you hope to contend, so you don't want to fire the coach. And now that they're not contending, what's the point of firing the coach? Maybe that's kind of how you don't need to follow up. I'm just thinking out loud. Hawks, give me a team or two, give Bucks fans something to chew on. If a trade request happens, whether at the deadline, probably more likely in the summer. What does a rebuild look like? Sell us on the direction and sell us the best possible way it would go.
Well, there's a couple of interesting things to keep in mind. There is no, and now that I say this, famous last words, but there is no in-season trade with the New York Knicks. They're a first apron team, and it makes it incredibly complicated because you can only send out 110% of what you're bringing back. You can't bring back more money than you're sending out if you're a first apron team. So all of that, like, Knicks are looking to get Giannis, and they would trade out Towns, and they would also get Drew and trade out Bridges. Both Giannis and Drew Holiday make more money individually than Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. So they could do neither of those trades within season because they're hard capped they're a first apron team, and that's one of the restrictions that comes. So they could, if they shed off, I believe, like $19 million to get below that apron line, which those trades would be taking on more money. So those are going to be complicated. Draft assets too, like saying the other funny one was now I think we know where the sourcing is coming from, but Brian Windhorst saying, well, the Warriors actually have the best package that they can offer because they can say own our future. I mean, sure, but the problem is the Bucks don't have a present, right? They have the pick this summer. They do not have 27. They do not have 29. 28 and 30 are both pick swaps with the Blazers. And Portland figures to be building something here and pretty good where they're probably going to take advantage of those pick swaps. So, yeah, you could potentially own things well down the road. Like 29 is the earliest you could get a value from the Warriors. Everything else would be like 31, 33, and a pick swap in 32. They can't trade 2030 because that's already part of a trade with the Wizards. You're waiting 5 years with no real draft capital that you own, which is just a disaster. So those are the things to keep in mind as well, that like the ideal scenario is you either get another lottery pick this summer and players, something else. So that way you're getting 2 bites at the apple where you can say we got 2 high lottery picks in a loaded draft that everybody loves, and we think these guys can immediately make an impact. Like, look no further than VJ Edgecombe. We're going to get one player better than VJ Edgecombe and maybe a player that's like around VJ Edgecombe. So there's that route, or there's just getting young guys that can help you stay afloat that are good players, right? Not like a Karl Anthony Towns type, but younger guys on team-friendly deals that can help you out, and then some picks down the road to start to fill in those holes that you have starting in 2027 when finally the Drew Holiday trade, you finally pay off that credit card bill next summer, and then the Dame payments start to kick in after that.
Well, there's some shrewd financial management will go a long way with how this team can manage that. An interesting thought, because you always see, well, the Warriors, Kuminga and Butler and Pig. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe not really. I think the Warriors are sexy because Giannis has always kind of been tied there. The Knicks are a team that people want to talk about.
And the sexiest part about the Warriors, to that point where I would agree with that notion, is Steph is in his mid to late 30s. Draymond's in his mid to late 30s. Giannis is already 31. Giannis, as you played there from Doc, has now had 3 straight seasons with, instead of the knee, it's become soft tissue in the calf issue. So, like, are you gambling on, I don't know how long this is going to last and it's going to get pretty ugly? That's probably a good bet. But the unfortunate part is you don't have a safety net in the interim.
Justin Garcia. I don't think I've talked to you. R.I.P. Bob Weir. What is your favorite of the Bob Weir selections in the Grateful Dead?
I really liked all of, I think we've talked about this before. I really liked all of Bobby's cowboy songs.
Yeah.
Like way back when they would always cover El Paso. I don't remember if it was you or someone else I was talking about it with, but I've been listening to the Reckoning album a lot, even before he died, which was their acoustic album live that they put out. And it's
talked about that with someone else too, but
yeah, it's loaded with those Bob Weir songs. The Race Is On, whenever they would play that, was a favorite of mine. Everything basically, like just going back and listening to most of it again, and you're like, yeah, I forgot how much I really like this one. Oh yeah, like I thought I was a Jerry guy, but I guess it's pretty split because I remember this one too. Oh yeah, there was that one.
I like The Race Is On. Great version, right up there with Sawyer Brown's in the 90s. Both are good. Very different reasons, different interpretations.
Didn't expect a Sawyer Brown reference,
bro. if you know Sawyer Brown, if you grew up going to
in the
Country Jam,
90s.
Country Thunder. Yeah. I was at a cabin in the fall. We can wrap up with this, but I was at a cabin in the fall, and there were two people from De Pere. I mean, these are Fox Valley fishermen, like these, talking like this. And we were talking about country music. Oh, I love country concerts. And I said, who's your favorite? Who's the best band you've ever seen? She goes, oh, Sawyer Brown. I'm like, okay, yep, I get the gist here. I don't know what's going on. I appreciate you, Justin. If we get a hard trade request, I don't expect one. We'll have to do this again, but thank you for the time.
Anytime.
Justin Garcia, Bucks Radio Network. Sawyer Brown, shout out. Yeah, you either grew up a kid of the 90s going to Country Jam or Country Thunder or Country Boom, or you don't like Sawyer Brown. There's only two types of people. God, Sawyer Brown rules. But probably, a little different than the Grateful Dead's version of The Race is On. Hey, if you're like, Grant, enough of the Bucks talk. Well, don't worry. We're going to get to Bobby Babich coming up at 5 o'clock. Don't you worry. Just a couple minutes away. We'll wrap up hour number 1 of the Wisco Sports Show coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
There is a sport you play and things happen. And it's concerning because this is, really 3 or 4 years in a row, right? I don't even know that. So, he plays a lot of basketball. He really does. Summers, then body doesn't get a lot of breaks. And, that's tough.
Doc Rivers, I'll play that soundbite one more time before we move on from the Bucks. Doc, don't say that. If we're going to trade our superstar and try to rebuild the franchise, don't talk about Well, that's a couple small soft tissue injuries here now in a small, short span of time. And don't forget that he plays basketball in the summer, too, for Greece. Everybody remember that. Doc, shut up. You'd be a terrible salesman. Well, actually, I think he's probably a pretty good salesman because he keeps getting jobs. But, he plays a lot of basketball. It's been hard on his body. Hey. Bobby in Menominee says, Brewers are statewide, Bucks not so much. Only team not on WEVR here in the St. Croix Valley. Yeah, the Bucks affiliates are fewer and farther between. I think Justin's breakdown of how the teams in the state, align, I think was very accurate. I think the state will get excited for the Bucks, and I think they'll be there for the ups, and they'll hang around for the downs. But I don't think they're going to hang around for years and years of bad basketball or mediocre basketball. I think when Giannis started ascending and the Bucks started ascending, 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there, I think Wisconsin was jumping on and following. And I think up until last year and this year, they've been following. Now they might start jumping off a little bit. But I don't think the state is the state that, the Bucks are in the finals. Let me turn it on and watch. Like, I don't think that. I think they're a little bit more plugged in than that. But yeah, Justin was correct. And Bobby and Menominee, you are correct. That the entire state's not going to, if this team goes in the tank for 8 or 9 years and rebuilds, they're not necessarily going to hang around and be there for all of it. We'll get into the Packers after the top of the hour because we got to talk about Bobby Babich. Sean Mannion also interviewing for a second time in Philly. Interviewing for that type of job is going into the wasp's nest, into the lion's den. Offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jim in Cottage Grove says, I can't believe you just said that. I told my wife that this morning. As long as nobody finds out that he's playing basketball year-round and he has all these soft tissue injuries, they should be able to get 3 or 4 good players for Giannis. Guess what? Now the cat is out of the bag. Well, yeah. Jim, I think you're being sarcastic, which is funny. I told my wife, as long as nobody finds out. I understand that other teams know. And 2 calf strains in 1 year is spooky. I would like to get off that asset if at all possible, which is, inhuman. It's a little robotic to say that Giannis is an asset, but to the franchise, he is. And there is hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. So the thought of him popping an Achilles when he's already halfway out the door, if one foot's out the door, I don't want his remaining foot to pop an Achilles. That would be bad for everyone involved. Giannis first and foremost, but especially, the Bucks, as they have to try to recoup picks and if he pops an Achilles as he's hemming and hawing on his way out the door, like that's the worst case scenario. I do wonder if Bucks fans will get, more annoyed, or if Bucks fans have kind of come to terms with this, because I think Giannis could have handled this a little bit more cleanly. His camp could have handled this a little bit more cleanly. I think part of the reason why we're getting report after report after report is because Giannis's camp is hemming and hawing, and they want to soft launch this, kind of tap dance around that. Whereas if they had been very open and very direct, and this was handled in the offseason, I don't know, maybe it would have been a better outcome for everyone. Although I respect the Bucks saying, no, we can get Miles Turner and we can figure this out and we can do it. I respect that, and I respect Giannis for trying to make it work. I would prefer if he would just be locked in and fully committed this entire season and then address in the offseason. You're all in and you're a Buck this year or you're not. That's what I would have liked, the approach I would have preferred. Hour number 2, let's talk Bobby Babich. Thank God, that's coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Giannis Antetokounmpo is reportedly ready for a new home. That's what ESPN's Sham Sharani reported today. He said Antetokounmpo would like to move on from Milwaukee before the February 5th trade deadline or in the season. The 2-time MVP and Milwaukee is listening. Reports said the team will not make a deal quickly just to make it before the deadline. Could wait until the offseason. Milwaukee 12th in the East right now. Antetokounmpo not playing. He's expected to be out for quite some time. Bucks will face the Wizards tomorrow night. Turning to the Badgers, it's game day for them. They will host Minnesota tonight, the second game of a 3-game homestand. Wisconsin did not get off to a great start in the homestand, losing to USC on Sunday. A big problem, the shooting from the outside. Went just 9 for 37 from 3, but Coach Greg Gard doesn't want his guys to stop shooting.
We'll keep shooting. You don't discourage. You have to make sure you just keep taking the right shots and keep shooting, and good things will continue to happen like they have for the last, it's been a while since I've had a somber locker room.
Again, it'll be the Badgers and Gophers tonight. Tip is at 8.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Well, the Packers have reportedly hired Bobby Babich as their new defensive passing game coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator with Buffalo the last couple of years. And Wisconsin's 2026 schedule is set. It includes opening the Big Ten season at Penn State, back-to-back games versus USC and Iowa at the end of October, and closing the year versus Minnesota at home. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Hey, now what's changed is from the Milwaukee Bucks, either at next Thursday's NBA trade deadline or in the offseason. My understanding is, to put it plainly, Giannis has made it clear and communicated to the organization that he believes it's time to part ways after 13 years together and the first championship in 50 years in 2021. And what's changed for the Milwaukee Bucks is they have had a surge of aggressive trade offers made on Giannis, and they are now listening to them. These are offers of all-star caliber players, multiple draft picks, but this has been brewing for the last 9 months. Giannis and his agent, Alex Saratsas, have been very upfront with the Bucks organization about his desire to compete for a second NBA championship. And where this Bucks organization is now is they're dealing with being 9 games under 500. They're the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're now being surpassed by the Charlotte Hornets at 11, and they're more jockeying for lottery positioning than even Giannis's return from the calf injury. So there's been a lot of uncertainty within that Bucks locker room, Hannah. We're now 8 days from the NBA trade deadline. We'll see if a deal happens.
MRI has revealed exactly what we thought. There's no timetable, no cap strain, really no timetable for return. Hopefully, I get wet before or sooner, but there's no timetable.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
So I've backed myself into a little bit of a corner on the internet here. I do have to share this before. Again, we're going to get to the Bobby Babich hire, everyone. Calm down. We'll get there. Oh, my God. Calm down. So I was scrolling Twitter before the show started because I wanted to be up to date on all the things. And I saw that Dan Schaefer, who's a political pundit from Milwaukee, pointed out that Donald Trump, what would the word be? Endorsed Tom Tiffany for governor, and that what's the fella's name? Josh Schumann dropped out. And I was reminded of that video that Josh posted about wanting to move the Department of Natural Resources to Marathon County. And in the video he posted, he said, right here in Marathon County, like 5 or 6 times. It's one of my favorite videos any political candidate's ever posted. And I tweeted something about Marathon County. I don't know. And now I have a bunch of Brewers accounts in my mentions fighting with Dan O'Donnell listeners because I guess Tom Tiffany's on with Dan O'Donnell. We're counter-programming Tom Tiffany and Dan O'Donnell this afternoon. And the tweets, I have Brewers Twitter tweeting about this they want to know what Tom Tiffany has planned for Marathon County. That's what we need to know. But I can't listen because I'm counter-programming Tom Tiffany on Dan O'Donnell. So I've been inundated with Twitter notifications, and it's making me laugh. Again, that's secondary clearly to the story that Bobby Babich has been hired by the Packers. We will get to that. But first, I want to take a call. They sat through Zach's update. I appreciate you waiting. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's that?
Hey, Grant. It's Caleb in La Crosse.
Hey, Caleb. What's going on? La Crosse County.
Hey.
No place. No better
La Crosse
place.
County indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I know you want to move on to the Packers' new hire, but I just had one last Giannis take for you. And to preface it, I suppose I should say I am first and foremost a Packer fan. Love the Packers with all my heart, and I like the Bucks. But truthfully, the reason I became a Bucks fan was because of Giannis.
Sure.
Love him as a player, love him as a dude, but I truly think his time in Milwaukee has run its course. And while I guess I will be somewhat sad to see him leave, I think I almost want him to get another championship. Like, that's why I want him to leave. He's not going to get in Milwaukee.
You'd pull for him somewhere else. You'd be happy for that.
Yes, absolutely. Like, he got us a championship. So it's like, Giannis, thank you for that. You go do what you have to do for you and win another championship. And no matter what team he ends up on, hard to imagine I won't be cheering for him.
I completely and totally agree, Caleb. And I'm glad that I took your call. We can take a minute quickly to reset Bucks before we get to, but we'll get to Bobby Babich. Everyone calm. God, the live stream. Everyone wants to talk Bobby Babich. Calm down. We'll get there. I also think, and this is something that bothers me about the NBA. I don't like when we completely and totally remove agency from players. It's not that I think players should be ripped and criticized and slandered. I don't like when we completely and totally remove agency. I don't like when we have athletes that become sacred cows, where they are beyond reproach, beyond criticism. And I think we've flirted with that with Josh Allen. I don't think we've fully gotten to that point. But, for example, they lose to the Broncos in the divisional round. And I thought Josh Allen turned the ball over a bunch, missed some throws. And we're left talking about how Sean McDermott is fired and how the Bills haven't done enough around him. It's like, well, okay, I'm not saying the Bills roster is perfect and their coach is perfect, but to completely and totally remove the agency and the responsibility from the player, I don't like that. And I don't like that, especially in the NBA, when it's constantly player A needs to demand a trade to get out of there because they can't win there. Really? Player B, player ABC, 1, 2, 3 they got to demand a trade. They can't win there. Sometimes, yeah. But lots of those players have gotten to the second round or the conference finals, and they haven't held up their end of the bargain. You know what I mean? Doesn't make them bad people. Doesn't mean that they don't deserve our respect and admiration if they're a great player, they've won MVPs or all pros or first team NBA, whatever. But if a superstar player gets to the conference finals and has some bad games, well, I'm not going to say that their team, they need to fire their coach or, blow the GM out of the building. Like, no, the player needs to hold up their end of the bargain too. And that's why I think sports radio is or sports media in general, something we're really bad at is walking away from a close playoff loss or a big time NBA playoff series. We're really bad at walking away from a series and saying this. You'll never hear this on sports talk radio or TV. Wow, really close series, good coaches, good players, good organizations. The players on that team just played a little bit better. That's it. Sometimes that's what it comes down to. It's not always that one coach is an idiot or that one team is poorly built or their owner is a dummy or their GM won't make moves. Sometimes you have two good teams and the good players on one team just make a couple more plays than the other. And that doesn't mean those players are better. That means they were better in those games. Doesn't exactly sell newspapers, but sometimes that's the story. And I think that's been the story in a couple of series with Giannis and the Bucks, where it's like the team was really good and they had a great shot and they didn't get over the top because Giannis, didn't have it in a couple of spots, or Chris Middleton wasn't quite the number 2 he needed to be, or, Giannis missed some free throws, or like just things like that. That doesn't mean the Bucks let him down. Doesn't mean that John Horst or Mike Budenholzer or whoever didn't do their job. Just means that they didn't get it done. The team didn't get it done, and the player is a big part of that team. So I don't like removing agency, and I think that's been true of Giannis. So everyone's going to say, well, Giannis should go chase a second championship somewhere else. He's free to do that. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? At his new team, is it the Bucks' fault that keeps popping his calf, getting soft tissue injuries? Will that be fixed if he goes somewhere else? Will that be fixed if he goes somewhere with a true number 2? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I'll cheer for Giannis wherever he goes. I try to not be so naive to think that every great player who can't get over the top, all they need is a change of scenery, and then they'll start stacking rings, because we've seen way more examples of that not being the case than we have examples of that being the case. In fact, I actually don't know the most recent example of where like a super team or a big superstar swing trade has worked out and and resulted in a championship right away. One more call here, and then I promise I'll get to Bobby Babich. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Dan, first time, long time. Got a question for Tom Tiffany.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
If Giannis leaves the Bucks, like, is the state of Wisconsin committed to keeping the Bucks here, or would you be open to listening to offers from Seattle, Nashville, those cities of the world?
Well, it might be cheaper and easier to keep them. Wasn't that the spin the last time around that we did this?
True.
I don't know. I'll pass this along to Tom Tiffany. Again, we're counter-programming Dan O'Donnell and Tom Tiffany today. I hope that my Bobby Babich analysis still pulls some listeners over here, but it's a tough day to go up against a topic and a guest like that.
Yeah, and Dan's a former sports guy, so he understands the craft.
That's true. Yeah, he does. Crafting a take. I wish politicians could endorse sports talk hosts and not just political candidates, but like how can I get the evening drive blessing of our governor? I should get the blessing of Tony Evers. I'm in Madison. I should get that blessing. Whatever.
Ooh, might be competing with the guys across the street.
Guys across. I love when that's such a sports radio thing. Yeah, the other place, the guys across the street. That might be true. Maybe I'll email Tony. He's not running for re-election. Typically, people hand out pardons or they hand things out on their way out of office. Maybe I can get something on his way out of the office.
I don't know if that'd be good with your audience, though, to be honest.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I don't know. We're flirting with a political satire here. The further we go down this path, somebody's going to be listening and be like, "Oh, I don't like that politician. I don't like the Grant's talking about him." So maybe I should be careful.
Yeah, probably Badger Bloody. Leave it him.
Probably. Oh God. Well, what's up, Cone? Do you have something to say about Giannis, or do you want to switch over to the Packers here?
I'm sick of it. Like, I want off this ride with Giannis.
Yeah.
Thanks for winning us a championship. One of the probably the greatest player we'll ever see play for the Bucks in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's all I got to say. I'm just tired.
Yeah, I think Giannis fatigue big time. I appreciate the call, Cone. Thank you for listening and not listening to the fellows across the street, as we say. Yeah, this year feels a little bit like a waste. I guess the way that I would have liked this year to go, Giannis agrees to come back, and the Bucks say, well, we're going to get Miles Turner, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Is this a plan that you like? Is this a plan that you think will work, and will you commit to us for this year? And if Giannis says yes, then my preference would be, all right, dude, then you're locked in all year. You're fully committed. You loudly shoot down any trade rumors, any questions of your future. You fully endorse your future with the Bucks through this year. This year, I'm a Buck. We're fully committed. Miles Turner is here. We're fully committed to getting this done. And there is no crack in the armor, and there is no moping, and there's nothing. Now, the second the season ends, we get back in a meeting room and we can reassess, but not before then. Because what's happened is Giannis has come back seemingly like, oh, I guess I will. And there's been a lot of indecision or non-commitment, which I think then the rest of the team sees that. And it's like, well, if this guy's not bought in, why the hell should I be bought in? I'm not even making that much money. I mean, Giannis is hurt. He's not even out here playing right now. So I think Giannis's diffidence at times has trickled down to other members. And nobody is like, well, at least we got Doc. I know players like him. But I just think there's a lot of players who got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that starts at the top with Giannis. If Giannis has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, well, then it trickles down to the whole thing. So I'm with you, Cone. I would like off this ride as well. I would like for full commitment one way or the other. We're either tanking the air and Giannis is going, or I want Giannis to put on his sneakers, shut up and dribble, which I say jokingly. I realize that was an insensitive comment, I think made once upon a time. Was that Laura Ingraham? We got to stop mentioning political people today. People are going to start to be turned off. Giannis, just shut up and dribble. Clip that and post it. That's what I would have liked. If Giannis is back this year, then we're fully back. And if it doesn't go well and it doesn't work out, all right. But we decided before the year that we were going to, give this the full bore, that we were going to go. And the second the season's over, Giannis, we're more than happy to readdress. But if you were fully committed to this season, which I hope was the decision at the beginning, then I didn't want the indecision. And I do want a full-throated denouncement of any questions about the future. And we haven't really gotten that from Giannis. And I think it's been an issue this season. I'm not saying they'd be the 3rd seed in the East if Giannis would just, toe the company line and say the company line and speak the company language. I'm not saying that, but I think this would be better. I don't know how much better, but I think it would be better. Oh, Tom on the live stream. Good point. Jim Leonard is good in the paint. I mean, he could be a good option if they decide to move on from Doc at the end of this year. I want Jim Leonard in every coaching search. New rule moving forward. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Uncle Packer.
Hey, Uncle Packer. What's going on?
And, well, I'm just thinking, I really agree with the last caller, the first-time caller. He was, really big on, he's sick of this Giannis thing, and so am I. I'm just going to wait and see what they do and relax about it. You can't win the NBA championship every year. So I would also like to bring up some things about the Packers just real quick. Talking about Jim Leonard, they would bring Jim Leonard in for our special teams, which I hope is open.
I mean,
I don't think
this is a great question, Uncle Packer, because, and I've been told by everybody, Jim Leonard's been good at everything. A great basketball player, great coach, great safety. He could probably play linebacker. Why not? I bet he would figure it out right away. I bet he'd be great.
Well, doesn't he have the Badger record for the most punt returns or something? Most punt return yardage?
I don't know.
And,
Probably, yeah.
Make him the assistant head coach, and then in a couple of years, with this is still going on, where we lose in the fourth quarter, moving into the head coach position.
Yes, then we can slide Matt LaFleur out of there, and he can assume the throne. Yes, Uncle Packer. It starts with special teams.
Yeah, and I think so. Still, we don't have to plan on losing 4 or 5 games every year because of our special teams.
Correct.
And
Jim Leonard would put a stop to that.
All right. Well, I would think so. Just because, the Indians in the mountains here sing songs of his greatness all over Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, he is amazing.
Yes, they do.
If you listen to people talk. Also, I really like the analysis about the other teams who are really low on special teams being all from that same tree with Matt LaFleur. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And maybe there's something to that. So we got to have 3 phases. Maybe Jim Leonard will give us that 3rd phase.
I'll give you
Thanks for taking my call.
No, Uncle Packer, anytime. I put a pin in that Packers special teams thing. I'll give you a take after this break. I don't want to do it now because I want to take one more call. Packers fans, I will make a concession. I've argued over something with Packers fans for a long time. I'm going to admit that I was wrong. I'm going to concede something, and it relates to special teams. We'll do that after the break. But first, one more call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, hey, Tony from Texas here.
Hey,
I know you're up against it. I'll make it quick. Great Mike McCarthy video and audio that you've had the last day. I love it. The highly successful football coach. I try to model my game after McCarthy. Great points by Cone. Let me give you a little parallelism with Giannis in my world, too.
Okay.
This is just my Tony from Texas world.
Well,
I
a highly successful AAU world, to be specific. That's what you're saying, right?
It goes off the court, though. I'm talking more off the court, Grant. Dating a very pretty girl, and she always told me she was going to get breast implants and never did.
Okay.
And then finally the day of reckoning came, like, are we ever going to do this? Is this ever going to happen? And she's like, no, I don't want to do it. And it's kind of like, that's what the Bucks are going. It's not going to happen, Giannis. All right. Either go through the rebuild or not. That's it. Bottom line. You want to go through the rebuild and be a man like Dirk Nowitzki? Or are you going to be, he doesn't know leadership in Greek? I kind of appalled by the whole Giannis thing, actually.
Appalled. Well, you feel how you want. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. Again,
here's the deal.
Go ahead.
He lost some credibility with me a little bit. I'll let you talk. I know you're up against
No. Why specifically? Tell me why specifically.
Because what's this whole, I'm not up on the Kendrick Lamar lyrics and all that stuff. What was that, the DNA and the blood or whatever that was called back in the day? And I know he was a little bit younger. But the Bucks, they put up so much money into him. They put so much money in him, and he did show the love back. But sports is tough. What are you going to do? You're going to go to Miami and just kind of play 50 games and hang out at the beach the other 32 games? Is that what he wants? It's too hard for him now?
I would do that. So anything short of him finishing his career as a Milwaukee Buck was going to be not okay with you.
It's disappointing.
Okay. All right. So I nailed it down.
I'm not going to say that. He's awesome still. I'm just disappointed.
Okay.
Instead of being like an A+ student, he's an A-.
Okay. Oh, all right. So I think we got down to the root of what bothers you there. Tony, I appreciate it. The breast implants analogy was an incredible one. I'm not sure how it fully applies, but I do love tales of your AAU conquests on the court and your personal conquests off. Tony from Texas. It's appreciated. We're gonna end right there. There's nothing I can add to that that'll make it better. Jesse Temple's going to be here at 5:35. We'll react to the Badgers schedule. And coming up next, I want to talk special teams and Bobby Babbage. We've been waiting on this, folks. We have been, since 2 o'clock, I've been getting messages. When are we going to talk about Bobby Babbage? We'll do that next, and I'll give you a special teams take as well.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
4 years. That's enough time to earn a college degree, to serve a full term as a president, to train for something big and become someone new.
You bet, and get 0% interest for 4 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, so you can invest in your home and in life's biggest moments. With exclusive features and customizations, Pella offers the highest quality products at a price.
Aim high resolution and imagine what you can do in 4 years when you finance your home project with Pella. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, Wisco Sports Show. Jesse Temple in about 10 minutes. We'll talk Badgers. We'll win-loss the whole schedule. We won't do that. And I don't think Jesse would do that even if I asked him nicely. He would half-ass it out of a courtesy to me. But I don't think he would do that. But we will talk about the schedule, some of the pitfalls, and some of the games that he thinks are most important. Also got a new Badger Bite out with the Badgers quarterbacks coach, Kenny Guyton. So we'll get to that. Well, I'll give you my breakdown on the Bobby Babbage hire in just a minute. But first, before we took our last break, Uncle Packer pointed out that the Packers special teams is right next to the Rams and the Niners as the 3 lowest in total EPA since 2020. So in the last 5 seasons, including the playoffs, the Rams, the Packers, and the Niners are the 3 worst, and it's not close. The Niners are minus 86. The next closest is the Chargers, by the way, at minus 65. Then the Packers are minus 165, and the Rams are minus 169. Nice. For a long time, the Packers fans have called this show or called Bill's show and said, hey, Matt LaFleur is not doing his job as a head coach because his head is buried in the play sheet all the time. And then when his offense isn't on the field, he's on the iPad or he's on the bench paging through his Denny's Perkins menu, looking at all his plays. And I've said, guys, but play calling is important. It's maybe the most important thing. Jeff Hafley's got the defense. You know, other guys have got, and I've always kind of downplayed that thing. I do wonder, are Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan so caught up in their play sheet? Like, maybe they do need to be a little bit more dialed. I was watching Vrabel this weekend. I just think these teams, these coaches that think the game on a higher level, they have a feeling for when to go for it, when to kick, you know, when to pull this out, when to, you know, take their foot off the gas a little bit. Like, Matt LaFleur's offense is great. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan's offenses are great. Situationally, all 3 of those teams have at times been duds. I actually think LaFleur situationally has been best of those 3. I think LaFleur had some bad moments this year, but on balance, for most of his career, it's been pretty good. This year was poor. The 2-minute was poor, had some bad moments and some hiccups in important games down the stretch. And clearly against the Bears, you know, needing to call a timeout. But like, also I put some of that on Jordan Love, dude. Like, you're the one out there running the show. In the 2-minute, tighten it up a little bit. So maybe Aaron Rodgers covered up some of those situational things earlier on in Matt LaFleur's career. Maybe. I am willing to admit or willing to accept the idea that Matt LaFleur is too buried in his play sheet. It's too buried in his offense. And maybe it does matter when he goes to the sideline. He goes to the bench, goes to the iPad. Like, maybe that's not nothing. Maybe that is a significant problem. Could be an issue. And up until this point, I haven't really been able to to come to terms with that. All right, did you hear the Packers hired Bobby Babich today? He was the Bills defensive coordinator under Sean McDermott. The Packers are bringing him in as the defensive pass game coordinator / secondaries coach. So maybe that means Derek Ainsley is out or he's being reassigned on the staff. I don't know, kicked up or kicked down one way or the other. But Bobby Babich was a contender for the defensive coordinator job 2 years ago. So I don't know much about Bobby Babich, although I'll listen to Locked On Packers tomorrow and I'll get the lowdown from Peter on why he's a great hire. I love Peter. I don't know why I feel the need to do that. Love Peter. What I do like, knowing very little, is that Bobby Babich is now taking on less responsibility. Jonathan Gannon, going head coach to DC, now taking on less responsibility. I like that. More people doing less. I also think that Matt LaFleur is, you know, I played you that cut the other day. Where did it go, by the way, if I can dig it up real quick here? Matt LaFleur likes hiring guys who have been head coaches because I think he likes to be able to relate with them. He likes that they kind of know what he's trying to do. Here's Matt LaFleur when Jeff Hafley was hired talking about that thing. This is from Monday's show if you missed it.
I think one benefit, I would say, from my perspective, is he's sat in the same seat. And so it's good for us to be able to bounce ideas off each other. He's going to be somebody that I certainly lean on. You know, I think he's just got great perspective of what being a head coach entails.
So that was about Jeff Hafley. True also of Jonathan Gannon. And on a lesser level, Bobby Babich, been a defensive coordinator or been a defensive coordinator candidate and been in those conversations and was a DC for Sean McDermott. But that's, you know, it's like Stenovich is an OC. It'd be like Bobby Babich is a DC. And now leveling down a little bit, less responsibility. That's good. But he knows how the guy above him has done his job. And I think that's good process. Again, I know very little about Bobby Babich. I will tune into Locked On Packers tomorrow and hear from Pete Bukowski on why it's an excellent hire. Jesse Temple going to join us next to talk Packers. There's your Bobby Babich Minute. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be right back.
I was listening to my pal Grant Bills, who's been on this program, who has been on our Locked On Packers squad show. I've been on his show. I've been on Bill Michaels' show a ton. In fact, I used to be Bill Michaels' intern way back in the day, long time ago. I will age myself too much if I tell you what year that was. But he was talking about how every defensive coordinator says the same thing when they get hired. And that's true.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Jesse.
Jesse. Hey, Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse. Jesse. Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse. Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse! Jesse Temple, Badger Connect. Perfect time for him to join us today because the Badger schedule came out yesterday. Now, a staple of sports talk radio is win-lossing the entire schedule months before the season even starts. And we kind of did that yesterday. We'll probably do it again. I would do that with Jesse, but Jesse would probably give me some version of, well, Grant, it's impossible to tell before the games are played, and it would be a good use of anybody's time. Because let's be real, win-lossing the schedule in January is a horrible use of everyone's time, but especially Jesse Temple, if we're being honest. So we do talk about the schedule. We talk a little Badgers basketball and his conversation with Kenny Guyton, the quarterback's coach, which is up today at Badger Connect in the form of a video, a Badger Bite. So enjoy our conversation. Here it is. Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect. Listen to him on the camp with Zach as well. I was just listening earlier to them talk about the schedule, which is now out. And we knew the opponents, but I think there's something different when you can see all of the logos and the names lined up, and we can talk about, which month might be easier or which month might be harder. Do you have a takeaway on the ordering or the sequencing? Was there a stretch of games or a month that you found to be very important or a stretch of games that you deemed challenging? Was there anything about the logistics or the sequencing of the schedule that jumped out to you?
Well, I'm with you, Grant, because even though we knew who Wisconsin was going to play, it's one thing to see the teams and another to see the order and try and understand what this is going to look like and when you get the bye week. I think the first 5 Big Ten games will tell us all we need to know about this team and kind of progress that it's made. And you could say that about a number of stretches. Obviously, they're opening the season against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field, and that is going to be very telling. But I do feel like even if Wisconsin doesn't play well in a matchup like that, they've got a real opportunity here with the rest of this schedule, because what was the big talking point a year ago at this time? How difficult the schedule appeared to be on paper. And it proved every bit the truth, because they played what ESPN ultimately deemed to be the hardest schedule in college football. They played 7 AP top 25 teams. That's a program record for the regular season. 10 of those teams went to bowl games. 4 of those teams went to the college football playoff, and one, Indiana, didn't lose any games and won a national championship. Well, you're looking at this schedule now overall, and the teams combined to go 69-79 a year ago. They have an opportunity to play the 5 other Big Ten teams, other than Wisconsin, that did not reach a bowl game a year ago. They don't have to play any of the playoff teams. So, that's my overarching takeaway. But the first 5 games are Penn State on the road. And I think it's tough to know what to expect with any of these teams because they're all going to have 40-plus dudes. But Iowa State coach Matt Campbell is now at Penn State. Former Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald is now at Michigan State, and that's the second game Wisconsin has to play. Former James Madison coach Bob Chesney is at UCLA, and that's the third game Wisconsin has to play. So they've got to play at UCLA, they've got to play USC at home, and then at Iowa, a team that's beaten the Badgers 4 in a row. Those are your first 5 Big Ten games, and while it's more manageable than a year ago, there's still a lot of challenges.
Well, let me ask you, Penn State, Michigan State, those two jump out to me because those programs have new coaches. And it's hard to know what to expect. And I heard you talk about this with Zach, too, and you just made mention of it. Like, yeah, you think these teams are easier on paper. The schedule's easier on paper. Who knows? Because every program's got 30, 40 new guys. And Penn State, Michigan State specifically have new coaches. Don't you think it's, I would say, incredibly important for Luke Fickell and his staff and his program to show up in those games and not look outclassed? Because if they get outclassed or if they look to be on the level below Matt Campbell or Pat Fitzgerald, those guys just got there. So shouldn't we look at matchups like that to say, well, Wisconsin should be the more buttoned up, built up program. They should look like they're a couple of years into this process against a team that's just getting started.
Yes, but you're also, if you're Matt Campbell, bringing a whole bunch of Iowa State dudes, there's probably some level of continuity there that you wouldn't normally have. And Penn State is able to recruit at a really high level. I think that's going to be, that's always a tough game. Wisconsin has lost 6 straight games to Penn State, and they haven't played in State College since 2018. That was way back when Jack Cohn was making his first career road start. So those opportunities don't come along often, but the Michigan State game is certainly a very important barometer. They all are to a degree. And I think I said this on the camp. I know I can say, well, this team, I don't know what they'll look like, or maybe they'll be better than we think. But Honestly, Grant, I look at this and think I choose to focus more on Wisconsin and less about what these other teams are doing because I don't know what they'll look like. And there's a strong possibility that some of these teams that weren't very good will be much better. We've seen how quickly you can overhaul a roster and have some positive things happen to you. But ultimately, this season is all about Wisconsin and what this staff can do because they believe they have upgraded the roster. And Luke Fickell talked about it at his press conference a week ago. And in talking to the team the first week they got here, this idea of closing the gap. And they think they've closed the gap at least a little bit by getting more talented players. They've got to go do it on the field this season. This is a season to me that not that there's ever any excuses, but there are zero excuses this year. This is the easiest path you've had in terms of a schedule. You're not going to get this again. And you have to win now because you haven't done it the last couple of years.
Well, and that leads me into, I think, my biggest observation of the schedule, and I want your take on that, and it plays perfectly off what you were just saying. Last year, and I remember you and Zach talking about this, and I think it was well thought out. I thought it was logical. The point of Wisconsin could be better this year, but it won't be reflected in their record, right? Remember those conversations? They could be an improved team, more talented, better coached, but it might not show in the record. I don't see a world in which they improve and close this gap in the way that you're talking about. It has to show up in the record. Like this schedule gives them an opportunity, show it, not just, in talent and in coaching, but it should be reflected in the record this year if those improvements, if that gap is closed, right?
I don't care about anything else. Last year was very unique. The defense very clearly made strides, and the offense, for a variety of reasons, was atrocious. The worst offense we've seen at Wisconsin in decades. But all that matters this year, even if you're not playing your best and you're duking it out against a team that isn't particularly good, win the frickin' game because you went 4-8 last year. You went 5-7 the year before. You've now had consecutive seasons without a bowl appearance for the first time for this program since they went a stretch from 1985 to 1992 without a bowl game. I completely understand that college football has changed and maybe what's important to some people has changed. But for Wisconsin as a program and for what you said you were going to be when you hired Luke Fickell, this is nowhere close to the standard. So to me, the baseline is a bowl game, but I feel like 7-5 is the minimum that they need to have. And even that may not be good enough to some people when you consider the schedule and the notion that there is more talent, but you got to go win the games. And this is the most winnable opportunity you've had.
Jesse Temple is here, Badger Connect. Before we get to basketball, I want to ask you about two things that you have at Badger Connect. First, you have a story about their class of 2027, including some of the in-state guys. And it seems that they've made some real strides there. So can you give us maybe the bare bones? I want people to go read it, but talk about the in-state recruiting specifically.
We talk about this often because Wisconsin is unique. There are not always or ever 30 or 40 top-level Division I, especially Big Ten level players. But in those years where you have a lot of talent, as a program, you've got to be able to close. And this group, this staff has struggled with some of those high-end guys, but 2027, they're off to a great start. They have 3 committed players so far. All 3 of them are from the state. Offensive lineman Ethan McIntosh, who's Chris McIntosh's son. He's in Verona. Kors Loken is a 4-star top 10 tight end in the country at Iola, Scandinavia. He's committed. And then last Friday, they got a commitment from Dustin Roach, who's a safety from Waukesha. They just had a junior day visit, as you said, on Saturday, and they had 4 uncommitted in-state players up there that I think they've got a really good chance to land, and ultimately the next few months will dictate it. But I believe they've got a chance to get at least 7 in-state scholarship players, which we haven't seen since, I think, 2020. Cole Reeder is a 4-star offensive lineman who, when I was talking to him, said he was reminded he's visited as a recruit 15 times to Wisconsin. If you can't land a guy who's visited 15 times, you're doing something wrong. They just offered a scholarship to Reese Mallinger, who's the twin brother of Hunter Mallinger, who had an offer from Wisconsin 7 months ago. Those guys want to play together. They're from the state. And then Kingston Allen is a running back from Green Bay, Notre Dame Academy, who set the single season school or state record with like 3,600 rushing yards and 57 touchdowns, who remembers watching Melvin Gordon run for 408 yards in 2014 when Kingston was 6 years old. Like, those are the kinds of players you've got to land. And I think that stuff still matters to fans, and to have players who grew up rooting for the Badgers that you can land when other Big Ten schools are interested in them.
It definitely matters to fans, and we can debate on what level it matters to the program, relative to 10 years ago, because college football has changed so much. I still think it matters a lot to the program if they want to succeed as Wisconsin has succeeded forever, even again in a college football world that's changed. Badger Bite is out this week. You talked with Kenny Guyton, quarterback's coach, about Colton Joseph. I'm sure there's a million good things in that sit-down interview. I'm sure you got a lot of good things. Can you give us one or two and encourage everyone to go subscribe and to watch?
Well, I wanted to ask him about this new quarterback room because there are going to be 5 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. 3 of them were not here a year ago. Colton Joseph was at Old Dominion. Deuce Adams, obviously, was at Louisville. And then you have an incoming freshman in Ryan Hopkins. You still have Carter Smith, and Danny O'Neal's recovering from an Achilles injury. So it's going to look a lot different in the spring. And I just wanted to get his perspective on what he saw in these guys, where he believes they can go. And of course, Colton Joseph is the name that stands out because if he can stay healthy, this has a chance to be the best quarterback Wisconsin's had under Luke Fickell and perhaps a longer period of time for Wisconsin. There's a lot to like about Colton Joseph. And Kenny talked about how sometimes the defense can be right, but because of Colton's athleticism and instincts and ability to make a play, he can still make the defense wrong. That's been missing from Wisconsin. And to do it where you also have the ability to complete some downfield shots because he's not just a running quarterback. I know they're very excited about what they have there. Personally, I'm intrigued to see not only him, but what do they do in the battle for the backup quarterback job because there's a lot of inexperience. Deuce Adams has thrown 21 career passes, and we saw Carter Smith last season start 3 games with uneven results. He's the first true freshman to start at Wisconsin since 1991 as a quarterback. So that's kind of what you're working with as you get into spring practice.
And lastly, we can wrap up with a basketball thought. Is it just about missing shots on Sunday, that blown lead to USC? Like, if it's that simple, I'm not going to force you to, make something up for 2 minutes. Was there anything maybe that comes to mind other than just they need to make shots?
You're up 12 at the under 12 media timeout. You got to win that game. It's just an inexcusable loss. And hopefully it doesn't come back to bite them when they get to the NCAA tournament time and the committee's reviewing it. But they closed the game 4 for 16. And Zach and I talk about this all the time because Greg Gard's probably said the same thing that Bo Ryan said. You can't yell them into making shots. There were some good looks. Austin Rapp had 3 looks from left of the key, and he missed them all. John Blackwell got one coming off a screen on the wing. Andrew Rohde was open from the right wing and just missed. I think a lot of those shots were shots you would want. But if you're going to set the program record for most 3-point attempts per game, you're going to have some games like this too. It's just unfortunate for Wisconsin that it happened when it did.
Well, and I think the frustrating thing is like they missed a lot of 2s too. They had a lot of good looks. People say, well, they just shoot too many 3s. It's like, well, maybe depending on your point of view, but it was also a matter of missing at the rim, letting free throws here and there. Like that's a big difference from last year to this year. Last year, they didn't really miss free throws. You know what I mean? It makes it a lot easier down the stretch to win these close games. Well, we will continue to follow your coverage at Badger Connect, and you and Zach are just an outstanding team on the camp. Appointment listening. Always appreciate your time, Jesse. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Talk soon.
Jesse Temple, Badger Connect, and that Badger Bite out with Kenny Guyton's very good. And for those watching on the live stream, so I apologize. We lagged out in the middle of recording, and I downloaded the video, edited it, fixed it, but in my editing and fixing, increased the size of the video to the point where then I couldn't re-upload it. So if you want to see Jesse's handsome face, it's posted to the YouTube page, the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills, as I post just about every hit with Jesse over there. Sometimes I miss 1 or 2. But that's my takeaway on the schedule, and I'm glad that Jesse hammered this as hard as he did. The wins need to be there. The improvement in the program this year can only be measured in wins. Last year, the schedule was so prohibitive. Like, that schedule was so hard. And I thought Jesse and Zach said this a bunch of times on this show. There's a chance that the Badgers are better this year than they were last year, but their record is worse. Very reasonable, right? There's no world in which that's true this year. There's no world in which that can be true this year. The schedule is easier. You don't have to go to Outson. You don't have to play Ohio State. You don't have to go to the big house. Like, you need to win some of these games, even if it's not pretty. Just winning for the sake of getting wins and building and feeling like you're working towards a bowl appearance. Because while this might work for some people, it doesn't work for me. At the end of last year, you hear a lot of shows. It's like, yeah, but they got Mason Post and Cooper Catalano. You can tell the future's. Well, for me, I'm like, well, by the end of year 3, God, I should hope so. Like, the wins need to be there for me. There's this thing in the stadium. It's a scoreboard. I care about that thing this year. I cared about it last year too, but man can only take so much with a schedule like that. Like, the wins have to be there. The Brewers did sign a player today, a catcher, who's known more for an off-field thing than an on-field thing. We can address that and anything else. I'll get to your texts on the other side, 608-321-1670. One more segment before we turn things over to Bill Michaels and the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think the difference is that they might score 120 as opposed to 104 to win some of those games.
Hey, Jim and Bill, I hate to interrupt you because you guys are cooking, but 4 minutes ago, Woj just reported that Adrian Griffin has been fired by the Milwaukee Bucks.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
we were just. It's funny now, Jim. I just see it. The Bucks dismissed head coach Adrian Griffin. Now, let me ask you this: was this something that was to do because of strictly results, or was there a frustration with the team?
Look, I think that. Well, I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, the Bucks have done this with Joe Prunty before with Jason Kidd, Bill, and so I am surprised. I mean, we just said it now. I do think there had to be a disconnect somewhere with the Stars, Bill, and we'll get more into that as we get more information. But it is a heck of a move because you want to win a championship, and man, doing it with an interim is very, very difficult.
So the reason I play that, I went back and I pulled that audio from the Bill Michaels Show podcast. So a little bit more than 2 years ago now. That was January 23rd, 2024. And I know what you're all thinking. Wow, Grant, you're pretty organized. Well done. Well, thank you. You don't get to be an executive producer by being unorganized. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Jay Crowder, former Buck, was tweeting today And he shared the breaking news from Woj at the time, a little bit over 2 years ago, and saying, this is where it all started to fall apart. This is where it all started to go downhill. And I don't know if we're ever going to learn. I don't know if we're ever going to know like what exactly happened. There must have been, to Jim's point, some sort of, that was Jim Ozarski, by the way, Journal Sentinel. He was on with Bill at the time when the news broke, which is why I think it's compelling sound. That's why I saved it. But there must have been some disconnect, like Jim said, with the superstars, because the results were there. I think they were 30 and 13. And that was what forced them to hire Doc, which kind of backed him into a corner. And it just seems like it's been downhill since there. And I think you could also make the argument that that's where the ownership really got meddly, or the ownership really started to get heavy-handed with decisions and choices. I think this Bucks and Giannis thing was always going to end anyways. But that seems to be a moment that many look back on, including Jay Crowder, who's on the team at the time, looking back at that moment and saying, yeah, that's where it all started to go sideways. Let's take a call here. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Ridge Runner Mark.
Good evening, Ridge Runner. Perfect way to wrap up the show. What's going on?
So just to build on your last few riffs here with the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't know that it was necessarily the firing of Griffin. I would go back just a little bit further, and I think the trade for Damian Lillard.
Okay.
I think adding him was very much an ownership. Oh, this would be cool. Let's do this. Versus, I think the team they had just needed a different voice, and Griffin might have provided that if they kept the team intact rather than blow it up to bring in Damian Lillard. They might have been more of a defense wins championships. We're going to play tough defense, and Giannis is going to make shots at the end of the game. They're going to win us, and we've still got the rest of the team that can make big shots because they've proven it because they won a championship. No, we want to make the splash move because we're owners and we think we know more and we're going to make a splash move. I think that's really where it started to unravel.
And that's fine. Yep.
Yeah. And if it truly unravels and Giannis is gone, then so be it. But I don't.
So they hired Griffin in June, I believe. Appreciate it, Ridge Runner Mark. Good way to wrap up the show. I think they hired Griffin in June, very end of May, very beginning of June, if I remember correctly. And then the Dame Lillard trade happened in August. Looking back, coming after that playoff loss, the Bucks needed to do something. And after the playoffs, they decided the thing that we're going to do is change coaches. And if you want to make me the case, they should have changed coaches and kept the roster the same. Okay. I think what happened is they changed coaches and then realized, oh, we also have a chance to get Dame Lillard. And I don't fault them for doing that. Looking back now, it's so easy to Monday morning quarterback the thing. There weren't many people at the time that didn't like that move. And you could say, well, I wasn't sure. Okay, well, nobody's ever sure of anything. I've always contended that if they had kept Drew Holiday, they would have lost in the playoffs in the same round, just would have looked a little bit different. That's always been my contention. I don't think they were going anywhere with Drew, as evidenced by the previous 2 years. They needed something a little bit more stable and someone a little bit more stable offensively for when Giannis missed time. And I don't think that problem would have abated because Giannis has since then only missed more time. Now, Dame missed some time too, but Dame missing time or Drew being out there, I think the results offensively and the contributions are similar enough, where I don't think the results would have changed. It'll be really easy to go back and pick over what the Bucks did or didn't do. I think it's pretty hard to fault the Bucks for anything. I think people are going to say the Bucks wasted Giannis. No, I think they had a couple really good cracks at a championship, and one of the times they broke through, and the other times they didn't. And sometimes it's because Giannis and Chris didn't play well enough. Other times it's because there were injuries. Such is life in professional sports. It's not always because the GM was scared or the coach was an idiot. Sometimes the players have a chance and it doesn't work out. And that's the way that it goes. The Bill Michaels Huddle coming up in just a couple of minutes. We'll get ready for the Super Bowl, react to the conference championship games, make our picks, all that jazz coming up next, the final one of the season. So that's just a couple minutes away. And if you're not, if your local affiliate doesn't carry it, go